the more visible you are, the more chances you have of people finding your content, your channel, and checking you out.
I just saw that you are active in the community. I think that's really important.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So don't be afraid to reach out. The worst thing that can happen is they will say no.
One of the best things to do in that initial contact is to have an idea of how you can contribute value to them. I want to introduce you to my audience. That's a really hard offer to turn down.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's so great to see you here again for another Video Creators Podcast episode brought to you by vidIQ, like we do every Monday just for you. We're hanging out, just talking about some more advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategy, growing your business, helping you reach more people and change their lives. I'm hanging out today here with Sam and Blake, two of the YouTube strategists on our team. Today, we have something a little different here on the podcast. We have a treat for you. Tim met up with Vyyyper, and I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Vyyyper. I don't know if you can extend that because it's Vyyyper, and he is the head of social media here at vidIQ. And they had quite an interesting and valuable conversation around the do's and don'ts of collaboration on YouTube. Let's hear what they both had to say.
So, and Vyyyper, how'd you get the name Vyyyper? I'm sure that's everyone asks you that when you.
Yes, Tim. I am so glad you asked this question. It's one I've gotten a lot in my creative career. So I got the name Vyyyper because I am not so much more, but I was a big fan of WWE wrestling, or used to be WWF, for some of y'all who might be familiar. Mm-hmm. And back when I was watching Heavy about 10 years ago or whatever, my favorite wrestler, his name is Randy Orton, but his nickname is the Vyyyper. So I kind of adopted that because I was a big fan of Randy Orton, and I just thought the name was cool. But back when I was trying to get the name for social media, of course, Vyyyper, as you would normally spell it, Vyper, it was taken. So I tried Vyper, that was taken. I tried two Ys, that was taken. So I had to go all the way up to 3 Ys before I could finally get the name to myself, and nobody had taken it. So that is why I had 3 Ys, because everybody else took the original spelling, so I had to make up one.
Well, now it belongs to you.
Now it belongs to me, yeah.
No one can take that from you. That's awesome. As we talk about collaborations, I love this topic. It's something we haven't talked about here on the Video Creators Podcast for a while. So many creators are just creating and growing in isolation, and that's certainly part of the gig, where you're learning how YouTube's algorithms work and you're creating content for discoverability there. But this collaboration thing is a whole nother discovery opportunity that we haven't talked about as much. For someone who's not sure what a collaboration is, can you first just explain that to us? When someone's like, a collaboration, what does that mean? Like I just say good job, or I don't know. Tell us what a collaboration is.
Yeah, so when we talk about collaborating in the creative space, basically what we mean is you working with another creator, whether that be on a video or interview, or maybe just doing something behind the scenes on the video. But basically, a collaboration is just a partnership of the work being done.
Tell me about one of your favorite collaboration stories that you've done, whether it be on your personal channel or through vidIQ or something. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go with the personal one because that's the one that's probably my biggest one to date, I would imagine. So I used to do my own podcast called Vyyyper, which was a tech podcast. And I really wanted to do something special for my 100th episode. So I've been reaching out to some of the biggest tech creators in the space, but I had not had, as of yet, been able to secure a one-on-one conversation with Justine. Justine is Eric, for those of y'all who are not familiar. She's one of the most famous, biggest creators in the tech space, in creation in general, just an amazing human being.
She was doing it back when I got started in like 2007. Well, I started in 2006, but I think I bumped into her in 7 or 8. So yeah. Yeah,
she's been around for a long time. So I have been trying to get Justine's attention for a 2-year period as far as trying to get her on my podcast. So somehow, some way the stars aligned when I was getting close to my 100th episode of my podcast. So I had actually what happened was in my 2 years of trying to reach out and collab with her or whatever, this is the crazy part, Tim. As I was getting close to my, I think I talked about it, or I had sent her a DM on Twitter about my 100th episode, maybe a few months in advance or whatever. I told her how I would like her to be a guest, whatever. Didn't know if she was going to reply or not. But as we got closer to the 100th episode, one day out of nowhere, she DM'd me back about it. And she said that she would be interested in being my guest on the 100th episode of my podcast. So we kind of got together, and she was indeed my guest on my 100th podcast episode of Vyyyper Drive, which was incredible because, again, this was a 2-year process of me trying to reach out, get her attention, get her on the podcast and different things like that. It was cool because when we finally got everything ironed out and she agreed to be on the podcast, she kind of promoted it to her people. Obviously, I promoted it to my people. And we had a lot of people in the live chat because I do my podcast, or I did my podcast live on my channel.
Okay.
So we had a lot of people in the live chat when that podcast was going on. A lot of people, because I was almost like self-manifestation because I kind of like told people that I wanted it to happen, but obviously you don't know. It's just me talking until it actually happened.
Sure.
So it was interesting seeing the live chat, like, man, Vyyyper actually said it and he did it and he made it happen. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I went out there and I made it happen. But that was probably one of the more special collaborations I've done because, again, just because of the amount of time it took. But the thing about collaborating with bigger creators is that a lot of you all need to realize that they are very busy people, especially people with the caliber of I Just Thing. She has a lot going on. She's not going to be able to respond to your request immediately, whether that be through email or Twitter or whatever. But if you have patience and be respectful about it, ultimately, she's going to maybe respond. Now, when I asked her about why she responded and why she chose to be on the podcast, she told me that she had observed my activity in the community. She observed how supportive I was of the community and being active in the community. And obviously, she took a look at my channel to make sure that I was about the business, because you want to make sure that you're checking people and checking that they're putting in the work on their channels and they are what they say they are and all that. So because of her background checking of me and her coming to the realization that I was a positive impact in the tech community, that made her willing to come on my podcast. And so we made it happen.
Awesome. Cool. So a couple of things stand out to me in your story. Number one is that there sometimes is a level of persistence that needs to be included in this. Like, oh, that person's so big, like they'll never listen to me. I only have 1,000 YouTube subscribers or 10,000 or 200 or whatever the case might be. And that person has 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or a million or whatever. Why would they ever come and pay attention to me? And so I like the persistence that you 2 years of reaching out. Yep. You say 2 years. Is that like daily for 2 years?
No. God, no. That's the one thing you don't want to do.
About?
Just on and off me trying to reach out for 2 years. The one thing that you don't want to do is bug them like every day or every week about trying to come on or collaborate with you. You don't want to do that. Like I said, you want to be patient. Maybe reach out once a week or once every other week. Just don't overdo it because that's a quick way to get yourself blocked and muted and all that stuff. So
this is the 967th time I've reached out. Come on.
Yeah, that's not going to work. that doesn't work.
You can just set up some automations to do that for you at that point. I found that when reaching out, especially to bigger creators, one of the best things to do, and persistence is helpful, but one of the best things to do in that initial contact, especially if you're reaching out online versus meeting in person at an event or something, is to have an idea of how you can contribute value to them and to their community. Yes. It's not just like hey, I'm making tech videos now too, and so are you. We should make a tech video together, and then you can tell all your fans about my channel. It's like that's a great way to get the virtual face palm from the other side, the person you're reaching out to. So instead, pitch out with some value. This is what I want to do for you. I want to make you look good. I want to contribute this to your community, something like that. So is that kind of what you did with Justine and other creators you've collaborated with?
Yeah. The other thing is I'm making it easy for them if possible. When you are trying to collab, especially with a bigger creator, your job is to make it as easy for them to participate as possible so they don't have to do much work on their end. Right. So basically, all I asked her was to come have a chat with me on my podcast. That's pretty much all I wanted, all I asked her. And I was fortunate enough where she honored me with the accepted my request and she appeared on the podcast. But in all my collaborations that I've done or whatever, I have never asked to be on somebody's channel. I have never asked for a shout out, or I have never asked to be like put in front of their audience, nothing like that. All I ever ask the creators that I try to reach out to is, will you come have a conversation with me on my podcast or live stream or whatever? And I've been fortunate enough, I've had a lot of bigger creators be more than willing to come have a conversation with me because I wasn't asking them for much except to have a conversation. So as long as you keep it simple and make it easy for them if possible, you're probably going to get good results if you are patient and respectful of their time.
Yeah, and along the lines of making easiest for them as possible, when I reach out, if you just want to have a conversation, I did this to a guy not too long ago, actually. I said, "Hey, I would love to have a conversation with you about this blank, because I've been watching your content or I've been listening to your show, and I love how you are talking about this, that, and the other thing." That thing that you're talking about is really valuable for my audience as well. I'd love to introduce you to them and have this conversation that you're already having. And what something like that does is I think it shows that one, this person I've never heard of who's emailing me or DMing me on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, this person I've never heard of is obviously a part of my community. They're paying attention to the content that I'm doing. And then two, they're tapping into something I'm already talking about that I'm passionate about, right? It's something that is currently on my mind, something I'm currently excited about, that I'm talking about to my audience. And then three, the invite is I want to introduce you to my audience. Now, that's a really hard offer to turn down, be like, I'd love to introduce you to my audience, even if it's not as big as theirs. Like Vyyyper, someone comes to you, I'm making this up obviously, but someone comes to you and they've got 1,000 subscribers and you've got 10,000 and they're like, "Hey, I'd love to introduce you to my audience." Are you going to look at them and be like, "You only got 1,000 subscribers. That's not worth my time." Like, no, like you're gonna be like 1,000. I get to be introduced to 1,000 other subscribers. Like, heck yeah. So the reaching out to a larger creator with the invite of, let me introduce you to your audience and what you're all about right now. And the thing you're passionate about, the thing you're talking about with your audience. I want to introduce that to mine. If it doesn't feel like a spammy, like, "Hey, will you want to interview me?" And it's also going along that same lines of making it easy for them. Like, "I'd love to interview you. What do you want to talk about?" That's not making it. Now you're asking them to figure out what you should interview them about. And that's not going to work either. Right. So,
No.
I love all that. And then another thing you said in your story that stood out to me is that I just saw that you were active in the community.
Yes.
And I think kind of going along with what I just said too, I think that's really important. I get emails and LinkedIn messages a lot from people who are like, "I represent so-and-so and they've accomplished all these big things in their lives and they would like to come onto your show and they'd be a good interview guest for you to have." And I'm like, that might be true, but they have no idea anything about my community. They're just looking for some promotion. And their assumption is that I'm desperate for content from anybody, even people I don't know, never heard of before. That's wrong assumption. We don't even bother to reply to those emails. When someone reaches out, it's like, "Hey, I love that episode. And you guys talk about this, that, and the other thing. That really stood out to me because of this. And, and I've shared that with my friends, got some good feedback about that. I'd love to talk more about that." That's a much different email than the, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you, interview you. How do we do that?" Giving them the specifics that get them excited will weed out a lot of the noise, I think, and make it be a lot better. So, yeah. Any other tips or feedback or ideas from you about how you make the initial contact and reach out and get them to respond and say yes?
Yeah, George, once again, it's all about being patient. Again, when you are trying to reach out to bigger creators, especially, they're not going to answer you right away, more than likely. So don't bug them, don't spam them, but be respectful of their time and follow up. If they don't respond initially, that doesn't mean they won't collaborate with you. That just means that maybe they didn't have time to respond to your email, or maybe they just forgot about it. Sometimes I get a lot of emails and I forget to respond. So just follow up with them. The other thing is that a lot of smaller creators might not know what value they can offer to a bigger creator. Like Tim said, it's about maybe potentially introducing them to your audience. The other thing that I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for is affecting how somebody feels. If you can put a bigger creator in a fun, lighthearted environment while you're talking to them or whatever the case may be, or you make the experience as fun for them as possible, you can alter how they feel. And sometimes that's worth much more than whatever audience that you might have, because you put them in a feel-good situation. And I think I've been fortunate enough that I've had multiple interviews with Marquette Brownlee because when I talk to him, I am talking to him, I'm having a casual chat. I'm not trying to have any gotcha moments or anything like that. We're just talking tech like two nerds or whatever. And I feel like he enjoys talking to me, which is why he's been willing to talk to me on multiple occasions. So It's all about how you make that person feel too when you're doing the collaboration.
For people who aren't aware, Marcus has how many subscribers?
16 plus million.
16 million?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when people feel like, oh, I'm just going to talk to a human here, not a fangirl, although I do try my best to temper that sometimes, because I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but that's really good. All right, cool. Then let's talk about executing the idea. So we made the contact with this person, we've reached out, we've gotten a response, even if it took a few tries, some persistence there. And so far, we've been talking about doing interviews, which I think most people understand. What other ideas have you seen for collaborations that aren't interviews that have worked pretty well for giving creators an opportunity to cross promote each other, like in vlogging or in gaming or in entertainment type of content or even educational? Yeah, what would have been some other ideas you've seen work well?
Well, it's funny because me and Travis MCP, who, for those of y'all don't know, Travis is the one of our customer service managers at vidIQ. Me and him did a collab about 3 or 4 years ago, and we did a collab over a product. It was an Amazon Echo. I think it was the Echo Show, I believe it was. But the way it works is that for those of y'all who don't know, the Echo Show is a portable smart speaker with a display. So it had like a 10-inch display. So what me and Travis did was we video called each other over the Amazon or over the Echo Show speakers or whatever. So when I pointed my camera and I was filming at the speaker, I was literally talking to Travis as his face was on the speaker and things like that. So that was another cool idea for a collab that we did. Just him talking to him through the Echo speaker because he had one on his end, and obviously I had the one on my end. And we did a video call through the Echo Show, and we made video content out of that. So that was pretty cool. You have creators that will go meet each other in person. I remember when I was out in California for my first Vid Summit back in 2018. Somehow I ended up at Jonathan Morrison's studio. And for those of y'all who are not aware, Jonathan Morrison is one of the bigger tech creators, has over 2 million subscribers at this point.
You said somehow you ended up, like you're not sure how you got there? You just wandered into it or what?
I was with some other people and somehow we ended up going to Jonathan Morrison's studio. And the funny thing is he was shooting a video or whatever. And he asked me, I had a phone or something was going on. And he asked me if I wanted to make a video. So yeah, I made a video while I was at his studio, and he ended up kind of collabing with me in that video since we were both there in the same spot. So yeah, just being willing to travel to where other creators are and work together. That's how that stuff works too. So
yeah. In-person stuff works really well. I think that's the best if you can pull that off. And sometimes I hear creators who are dumping tons of ad money into their content, paying to promote their content, think that's going to help their channel grow. Ooh. And then I ask how much money they're dumping into it, and sometimes they're dumping thousands of dollars a month into this. I'm like, dude, how's that working for you? Well, not so well. That's why I'm here. It's like, yeah, let's take that money instead of dumping it. I could think of a lot of different better ways to invest it into your channel. For example, good custom strategy, or a video coach, a YouTube coach, like for vidIQ or video creators or something. But you could also just spend that on a flight in a hotel for like a night or two, and make contact and fly out to that person you want to collaborate with. That'll be way less than thousands of dollars a month, and you'll have a much bigger reward and benefit, not only from new exposure and growth on your channel, but in a relationship that would potentially continue to flourish and blossom. That's a weird thing to say about, but you get what I mean? Like it'll continue to grow for years to come, and pay off in more collaborations. And this is the weird thing about, it's not weird, but about YouTube that most people don't expect. I hired a personal assistant several years ago, not my current one, but 2 before her. And she was like, why are you promoting your competitors? I was like, promoting my competitors? I'm like thinking I'm sending out, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know. How am I promoting my competitors? Like, well, you keep doing all these videos with like Sean Cannell and Daryl Eves and Brian G. Johnson and Nick Niman. And I'm like, oh, those aren't my, well, yeah, they kind of are, but they're more like friends. And she's like, well, why are you promoting them? I'm like, well, I think that a rising tide floats all boats. Is that what it is? Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
I was like, we link arms and we kind of see that we're all on the same team and trying to serve the same people really well. And we all get excited if those people win, more so than if they sign up for my program versus the other person's program. And I really appreciated that spirit. I know a lot of industries and niches don't have that, but collaborations, I think, are an opportunity to start building those relationships with competitors and kind of hold our audience more with an open hand than a closed fist. Where and that's within reason, of course. Like, you're not going to promote someone who like doesn't share any of your core values and is like the opposite of who you are and things like that. But all that said, I think there's also opportunities to collaborate with people who aren't in your niche, but share your similar audience, right? The goal isn't to own, like, if you're a tech channel, you only collaborate with tech channels.
Right.
Let's say if you're a skateboarding channel, you might also want to, I'm making this up right now, collaborate with a channel that features energy drinks, or if you're a fitness channel, it might make sense for you to collaborate with a health and nutrition channel, right? So the same audience, both the channels have the same audience, but they're in different niches, so to speak, right? But the collaboration still makes sense. So I think that's a good way to do it. A couple other ideas that I've seen work really well. I think you kind of mentioned this when you said you're live streaming your podcast back then. I think live streaming with people works really well. We had on my family's channel years ago. This was like, a decade ago. There was our family and two other families, and once a month we had the three families would get together and live stream on one of their channels. So like on this month it would be on our channel, and we'd do this game of Pictionary, for example. And whoever won, we would mail this like inflatable trophy to them, and they'd get that in their channel for the month. And then the next month we'd all go to the next creator's channel, and we'd all live stream there playing another game. And each month we would be telling our audiences, hey, this is coming up. It's going to be over in their channel, 9 p.m., whatever time, it's place, whatever. And then the next month, so we'd rotate between our channels and we'd all cross promote each other. And that was legitimately a rising tide floating all boats, because as one channel grew, then within a month or two, their new viewers are now being introduced to these other family vloggers. And those relationships were forming not only between us, but between our audience and our viewers. So I really liked that idea. That worked really well. We've done others. We've done a channel takeover where I would come on, quickly say something, introduce a new creator, and then their video would be the video on my channel. So I'd set it up so people would be like, know what's going on. But that was kind of a fun thing to do. And then I would do the same thing on their channels. They would introduce me and I'd be like, hey, good to meet you. My name's Tim. And then I would take over with a story or video or something on their channel.
Listen, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So what do I mean by this? Sometimes smaller creators are afraid to reach out to bigger creators because they feel like they won't get their attention, or they'll say no or whatever. Well, yeah, if you don't take that chance, then you won't have that potential collaboration. The worst they can do, you all, is say no. And if they say no, then oh well, move on to the next person or go about your business. But if you don't reach out, if you don't attempt to ask them, or if you don't attempt to get that collaboration, you will never know what that could have been. So don't be afraid to reach out. The worst thing that can happen is they will say no. But again, if you're respectful and you follow up and you make it's easy for them if possible, more often than not, you'll get a yes. But shoot your shot.
That's right. Yeah. There was a creator years ago I used to love watching. They're a music channel, and they decided they would take all these shots, just like you're saying, and they would create these. They would write and produce custom music intros for different creators, much larger creators than they are. And they were pretty clever and obviously took a lot of thought and had the creators' inside jokes in there, but it was, typically a 30 to 60 second music video bumper that had clips from all their previous videos edited with this custom produced music and lyrics for about that channel, about that creator. And they make it, publish it on their channel, but then send it to the person and to the creator and be like, hey, look, I made this about your channel. And they're so well done. Every creator that they did this for picked that up, said, "Can I use this in one of my videos?" And the creators, the person who made it is obviously, yeah, like, sure. And then every creator ended up either using it as their official bumper or at least promoting it and talking about it and say, look how cool this is, that someone featured our community and made it into this music and this song, this music video. And so coming back to our point earlier, the goal here is to create value for someone. It doesn't always mean an interview. It could be creating an asset for someone. It could be looking at a video someone made and maybe they took a lot of time to explain an idea, and you, with your graphic design skills, can turn that into an infographic or turn that into a visual that communicates the idea they were trying to share, and send that to them. Say, hey, I made this. Literally loved what you were saying. I thought that this would make it simpler. Guess who's sharing that 100% of the time on their social media? Like that creator, right? For you. So I think there's just, if you come back to adding value to other people, I think it's hard to not get traction with these.
Yeah. I love how you say value.
Yeah. The last question with all this is, what kind of impact can people expect on their channel if they do collaborations like this successfully? Are we looking for more views and subs? Are we looking for more money? What's the main impact you've seen?
I think the main word Vyyyper, use them. The main impact is visibility. The more visible you are, the more chances you have of people finding your content, your channel, and checking you out. So if you show up on other people's channel and you show out, you make a good showing for yourself, then people will naturally get curious about what it is that you do, and they'll come over and check you out. Yeah. I had something like this happen on Twitter over the last year, because I had a notable a tech writer, blogger, kind of like communicate with me on Twitter. And people were like, kind of came over to my Twitter account and checked me out because he was talking to me. So just making yourself visible on other people's channels and things can bring traffic to you.
Yeah, that's good. I agree with that. I think the one that I would add for me in my experience has been the main benefit I get. I go into it thinking I'm going to get exposure and visibility, and that's been really good. And that absolutely happens. But what I walked away with at the end is a new relationship with someone in the industry, and not my specific niche industry, but like on YouTube as a creator, someone else I could talk to, end up meeting in person at a conference or an event, end up swapping phone numbers and texting each other, asking for feedback, and those relationships that have been built from those interviews and those collaborations have paid off way more in opportunities than in business growth than the short-sighted, like, I'm just going to get more views on a video. That will happen, especially if you think about, how do I show up to the other person's audience delivering value to them, and not just show up like, how do I make sure I pitch myself to them, but genuinely wanting to offer value. And then, I just think those relationships in the long term become one opportunity after another can come from those. So I think that's really, really important. Speaking of pitching, now people should go. Hopefully they're now more motivated to go check out Tube Talk.
Yeah, so come on over.
Link in the show notes down below. Hang out with Vyyyper every week. Is it weekly episodes?
Every Thursday morning. Yep, new episode goes out.
Awesome. So if you want to learn more about YouTube and hear more about it from the vidIQ's perspective here and how to grow on YouTube, check out the link down there. You can hang out with Vyyyper every week on this. So before we wrap up, I just want to hear, curious what you think. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our collaboration right here today that we just did? You can give it a low score. It's fine. I won't be hurt.
You know what? If my man Flossie Carter would say, this collaboration was a major go. It was a major go.
So you're going to avoid the numeric evaluation. Okay, I got it.
It's funny. He doesn't give a number, but 10. It was a 10, man. We the biggest thing about collaboration is, like you said, providing the value. And I feel like people that listen to this podcast will have a better idea of how to go about collaborating with creators that they want to collaborate with. And that was the goal of me and you in this podcast. So I felt like we got that done.
Cool. Awesome. And I think we have a collaboration coming up at some point on the Tube Talk podcast.
Yeah, we got to get you on there, man. We're going to talk about
sure when that's going to be, but you go subscribe, follow the Tube Talk podcast to listen for whenever that happens. I'm sure it'll be fun. So
Absolutely.
thanks for being here, Vyyyper.
Thank you.
Guys, collaborations for me have always been like this little secret sauce, especially for younger channels. I find it to be so valuable, and we'll dig into that in a second, but I'm curious, like, what were some of your light bulb moments in this just incredible conversation? I mean, it was just dripping with golden nuggets.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing Vyyyper said, but again, even Michael Jordan says too, is like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And I hear from a lot of clients, creators, that kind of that fear of like, oh, I'm not big enough to reach out to somebody yet, or they might not want to do it with me. And it's like, I mean, he spent a lot of time reaching out to iJustine to be on his podcast, on his channel for a while there before she actually decided, she was going to do it. But the persistence without, harassing people, but that persistence of like, yeah, I mean, people will still be willing to do it as long as you bring that value along with it. You never know what opportunity it can bring in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I think he said what, like 2 years he reached out. That's really being persistent. Yeah. And then to get that too on a special episode like that, such a big creator. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I really like what he said too, though, with that, like there's the persistence, but then also the respect of the creator's time. So it's like just being patient from your end and knowing like you're not bothering them. Like if you're respectful of their time, like it's okay to reach out in that way and you're not going to be annoying. And then kind of taking that with the, if you just decide not to do it and you say no and like you don't take the shot, then you're 100% of the time you're never gonna land it. Like it's never gonna work. So it was like equally for me as motivating as it was practical too. Yeah, and even the idea of like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, right? At least you took your shot at that point, right? And coming to them with a plan too. I think one thing they said was make it as easy as possible for the creator to want to jump in with you. And I think the one trap we fall into is like, I want to collaborate with somebody. I'm going to reach out to them and be like, okay, yeah, what do you want to do? It's like, what's more effective? Like, I want to make sure that I know that I'm valuing their time. Come with them with a plan of like, hey, I'm thinking about this. What if you did this, made this part of the video for me, or came to me with this? I mean, make it as easy and as fun for them as possible, because that's gonna be really inviting for them to want to come in to want to work with you, right? Totally, yeah.
And I think that there's something here too to kind of think about, and this is a trap I see a lot of, or just we all, I think, see a lot of creators fall into, especially like everything coming down from like optimizing your channel. You're always thinking about you, right? And one of the biggest traps that creators fall into is, this is what I want to do. This is what the value I feel I'm delivering, versus thinking about the person on the other side, the person that's receiving everything that you're doing. Because I hate to break it to you, if you've never heard me say this, it is not about you. It's about your viewer. So when you're approaching a collaboration, just substitute viewer for the collaborator, right? It's not about you. It's what value do you bring to them? What is the collaboration going to bring to them? Because then they will be a lot more open to it. I think it's just a general perspective shift that I feel all creators needs to make overall.
Yeah. I think I like that you phrased that as kind of the trap that creators fall into, because to me, I see collaborations very similarly to like sales content. And we talk about sales content a lot, and it just kind of feels like this kind of icky, like, I feel gross doing it. Like, I don't want to reach out to this other person, you know? And I think the maybe connotation with collaborations is that it is all about me. Like, I'm reaching out so you can do me a favor kind of thing. And I really like the language that they used. That was, I want to introduce you to my audience. I thought that was really powerful. And even that alone is such a relational sort of thing. And it really is like, it's hard to say no to that kind of thing, where it really is approaching with the value first and kind of having like the relationship in mind versus like, what can you do for me? I think it makes it a lot less intimidating as a creator too.
Well, it's really an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
When you look at it, it's an opportunity for two creators to cross expose audience. And I think it's kind of fun. Tim shared that that one story about how, he had somebody who said, "Why are you always promoting your competition?" Well, I am glad that Tim did a lot of collaborations, because I made my way into the video creators world, and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for a collaboration that he did with Daryl Eves. Because I didn't know who Tim was, but he collaborated with Daryl, and at the end, they pitched to Tim's channel, and that was my first exposure to Tim, was through a collaboration.
Look at that.
Funny enough for me as well. I mean, how I found video creators was through Tim doing a collaboration, I think, with vidIQ in a podcast, and that was the spark to how I found Tim, the podcast, and started listening to that. I was like, I like this. I love this guy. This is great. And that's how now I'm here. It's funny how, like, again, the ripple effect of that down the road, right?
Right. Yeah. And here you are working for vidIQ.
Yeah. Look at that.
How crazy is that? A mix of both worlds. It's crazy.
Right. It's just crazy. But I kind of alluded earlier to this being like a real little secret sauce when you're a smaller channel. One of the best ways to grow as a smaller creator, whether you're a 8-figure entrepreneur and you're just trying to gain a little traction on YouTube, or, you're just trying to get your first 1,000 or whatever subscribers, it doesn't matter. Collaborations really is a way to gain exposure. But what is one of the really important things, guys, that people need to remember when they're thinking of collaborating with somebody?
Yeah, well, I would say, like, really kind of focusing in on your content, like, as kind of the primary, because Vyyyper was saying Justine checked his channel out and like checked out his stuff after he had reached out to do collaborations. So she was able to kind of check his stuff out and see, like, oh yeah, he is involved with this community and he's really like serving his audience well and doing these things. I want to collaborate with a person like that. And so I would think of that as kind of the first and foremost. Like, I wouldn't just start a channel from scratch and then, not having really done anything yet, start reaching out to all these people like, hey, do you want to do a collaboration? If there isn't really, you don't really have like that, I guess, business card yet, or you're not really serving an audience well just yet. So that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind for me. Not to say that you can't do collaborations as a small channel, but maybe kind of get a little bit of momentum first so that you have a bit of kind of like a portfolio going into it.
I think it shows respect for the creator too, like being involved in their community. It's like, I'm not just here to try to use you for views or get that exposure. It's like, I actually am an active part of what you do. Like, I love these videos. I love these topics. I really want to do something to introduce to my audience. Like, hey, this person's awesome too. They should check out their channel also. Kind of turning that again, the value, flipping it on their head, saying, yeah, I want to really benefit you. Even if my audience is small, hey, that's 10,000 people as opposed to maybe your 100,000 that you could get to know, right? So,
yeah, and I think the key though is really remembering that you got to have similar audiences. Just because somebody has a big audience doesn't mean that their audience is necessarily a right fit for your audience, because then there's really no point. Because, okay, so a lot of those people come over, but they're not really your audience. Do you really want them as subscribers? They're not going to keep watching what you do because it's not the right target audience. It always comes back to target audience.
Yeah, I did think it was kind of cool though, like what they were saying about, it doesn't actually have to be exactly the same type of content, because it was kind of like the skateboarding channel example with the like energy drink sort of channel example. Like, they are kind of two different topics, but they have those overlaps, those overlapping.
I didn't think about that either, which is interesting.
Yeah, a really, really cool point to make.
Yeah, and I think also too, like, if I'm going to go really specific in a niche, let's say we have a keto cooking channel, right? Or paleo or whatever that is. Maybe you collab with a medical professional who's kind of in the same space, right? It's not like you're going to make that kind of content and they're not going to make cooking recipes, but that's a good partnership. So where does that take you is where I want to challenge the audience a little bit. Try to start thinking outside the box. What are some of those fringe type of niches that might be a good fit for you? Because as even a smaller creator or a larger creator, first off, it's fun to do collaborations, but that's a great way to just get exposure to more than just what you're talking to. And it's a warm audience.
I think even just the idea of treating it as like, hey, this could be a long-term relationship down the road too. I think for me was like, again, like you're wanting to reach out to this person, but I mean, Vyyyper even said too, like Marquez Brownlee, he gets to do ongoing hangouts or podcasts or episodes with him because of that relationship that he built. He built that trust with him, right? So you never know down the road that it's more than just a collaboration. Now it's a friendship, and that to me could be so much more valuable, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I agree. Because like you guys said, YouTube can be a very lonely place.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And if you're a larger creator, I mean, one of the things that I personally love to do is collaborations with up and coming creators that I love what they're doing on their channel. And I just, want to help give them a boost, by maybe exposing them to a bigger audience, but B, just having fun.
Yeah. And I think kind of with that too, it was really helpful as they were wrapping up, kind of sharing like what's the expectation? Like what can you expect from doing collaborations, which I feel like is a really good question because that probably can be a very cloudy place as far as like, if you have an expectation that's unhealthy, like, I'm going to get millions of subscribers from this tomorrow and
not gonna happen.
I don't know, just having a healthy mindset with that. I think like definitely the long-term relationships, they had said visibility, like just an opportunity being more visible. And then from there, it's kind of like, there's just more opportunity for really any of these things to happen. But moving forward, if you have the opportunity for a more long-term relationship with some of these collaborations that you're doing, and then also just the opportunity for more visibility, so much can come from that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just really feel like collaboration is just such a valuable tool for creators to really gain exposure and new opportunities. But just be patient in your search for collaboration. As you heard, it can take up to 2 years to get the right collaboration. Just remember that you really do miss 100% on the shots that you don't take. I want you, if that's one thing you take from today, remember that. And embracing collaboration can absolutely transform your career as a creator.
Every episode, we love to leave you all with a power tip. And this week, I want to talk about something called product drops. YouTube is currently integrating something called product drops into our live streams. So right now, if you want to promote a product on your channel, you have to kind of put that on your channel beforehand before you even jump into your live stream. What we're moving towards is the ability now to announce a product in the middle of a live stream. So you can keep that product secret for your audience and surprise them throughout the live stream a little bit more, kind of leaving that excitement for your audience, something to look forward to without ruining that surprise of what the product was.
I think that this is a total game changer for lives, especially for, I think of all those creators that have products. This is an exciting power tip.
Yeah, for sure. Something to look forward to. I think it's going to make, making products in general more fun, especially kind of share with the community and make it more fun than announcing it that way. So
I love it. Thanks for listening to another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you next week. Bye.